Hey everyone, welcome back. So this map I chose this time is Stolen Eras. And I didn't choose it for the map per se, I chose it because of the matchup. So, one of my favorite COs to play as is Sami, because Sami is just so different to how all the other COs want to play and what they normally want to accomplish. So, I'd like to be able to play Sami more in more of my matches, so that would somewhat require me to get a bit better at her. So, in an attempt to get better, I'm going to review a match from one of the most notable Sami players on the site. Don't get me wrong, Lord Clefairy, no slouch. He's probably the best person you want to go up against Rip. So, and also this is kind of the matchup I think I would be most concerned with, is Jess, the top pick of the tier, and against Sami. Because Sami mirrors, I'm not super duper worried about, and I just think Jess is probably going to be the hardest Sami matchup in many cases. Anyways, moving on this map, Stolen Eras, it's a very common map. Most of you probably have already played it. There's these HQs. Are they somewhat exposed? I kind of feel as if it's similar to a lot of other maps that have it exposed. If it's unexposed, usually it's not an issue, right? It's probably a good reason, and this reason is that it's kind of between two bases. It's really easy to front shift. In fact, most the front, the battle tends to mostly be in this little box area, and down here, and up here. This is how it normally tends to go on a map like this. And because it's so easily reinforced, like this one, it can be reinforced in one turn from this base. Anything up here could easily shift down here. It's super easy to contest anything. Then again, with Sami's victory march, you could make the argument, but honestly, or having an infantry on any of those tiles, I mean, you could. It's super easy to throw something up on there, though. That's my thought. Also, a lot of Sami players, if you're doing well, which you'd have to be doing well to get into this position anyhow, you probably are making very effective use of mechs and whatnot, and that's probably your primary force. So I don't think mechs not having as good of movement, it's probably going to be difficult to get in there and clear up some space anyhow. I don't think that's the main... Anyways, that's probably not the main reason you want to choose Sami anyways. Because if it's an easily captured HQ, you have other issues with the map. Let's go to the reinforcement lines. So one turn is just kind of give you a rough idea. The darker one this time is the offline base. And in my opinion, this offline base is the premier base. It's the best base for everything on this map. And again, this is no kind of surprise, but I'm gonna draw a line. I think it's here, right? Anything below this line. Ooh, I should not have chose red. Nope. Yeah, let's do cyan. Cyan will be a good color. Anything below this line is able to be reinforced by this base right down here. So on this base, if we look at it, let's say that you put something on the HQ. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The furthest you can get to this tile, but it doesn't excel at feeding the center. This base excels at this front and the center, which this one's just kind of lousy at both. And then there's this one, which is kind of the only option to really feed up here, and you're gonna because I consider this this side with the 2 bases the strong side. There's probably going to be a decent amount of aggression pushing out, so you're going to need something to kind of reduce this. There's also the airport if you want that. Before we go to the airport, though, let's just bring up the opponent's 2 enforcement lines. So, if you can kind of see, right in the middle, it's really tight, and so you can imagine it's going to be a pretty tight brawl down here. A lot of matches, there is quite a decent brawl down there. Most of my matches on this map, I have a brawl. Then again, I'm not playing Sami because honestly, I didn't think of playing Sami on this map because I saw it as a very brawly map. But I didn't think it would be necessarily a good Sami map. But this guy did, Rip. He assumed it was. So we're gonna see how it actually plays out and how I'm probably wrong about how I'm playing Sami. I'm probably bad at Sami. We're gonna solve that by watching this. So you get a little bit more relaxed up here, a little bit more relaxed down here in terms of your positioning. Relax is a really poor word. Just know that's really tight here, and over here there's a decent sized gap. Whoop. Yeah, let's just put that up now. So that is the 2-turn reinforcement line for air support. Let me that. And so what you probably already realize in relation to this is that in the center it's really close up, so it's probably going to be strong in the center. In fact, if there's brawling there, you may want them already there to kind of help you with that, help you wall break, anything you might need to do, right? It's okay over here, and probably if you need to reinforce and this base is not enough, you can go ahead and throw them up there. They'd be particularly decent at that. Over here though, they're quite lousy. Air support is not really expected to happen down here. Second thing, we do reinforcement lines. It is right on the second reinforcement line for blue up here, so that just kind of goes to, again, kind of show like this is a really feasible thing. It's either in the center where you need them or up here. You have 2 viable fronts on this map where you can send those things. And if I put up the opponent's air, you can kind of see they're kind of close together. If they both go into the center for brawling, it makes it super viable for, well, I say super viable, but really it makes it somewhat viable for battlecopters to be a counter to battlecopters. In some cases, some COs may want to do that. But then again, anti-air are also an option in here. If you're going to be fighting up here, anti-air is probably a much better option. Same with here. If you're player 1, anti-air is a much better option. Down here, if you're player 2, anti-air is a much better option. Okay, I think I rambled on enough about that. Let's get on with the show.
Ready? Go!
Alright. So it's just gonna kind of skip along because none of them have a particularly different capture game. Right there. So the ferry starts out with a tank as an opener. Tank seems like a pretty reasonable opener. I actually like it that he makes it back here instead of in the front, because out here, is it going to be able to do much? I think you'd rather have the infantry to try to go for all these captures, right? To complete the captures, to keep pushing forward. This guy can catch up. And would you really want your vehicles all alone on the front line? Yeah, you're probably going to want some of these guys sprinkled in. So sure. And Rip opens with a transport copter, so I mean, it makes sense. You're going to want mechs, you're going to want infantry. Yeah, let's keep moving. Opens with recon. Because you need vision. You can't see anything. What the hell are you gonna hit? And here's the first difference. My first thing is when I build a transport copter is, where can I boost someone this turn? Like, where can I get someone this turn? And he just moved this guy out of the way to go capture this. So my thought process was, okay, start boosting and moving stuff right away. You know, he's positioning this for something else. A mech. So right away, he's trying to get mechs out. And he makes a second transport copter. So to me, this is kind of would be normally a risky play, right? To have multiple transport open with multiple transport units. Well, I don't have anything to really counter any predator harassment. So, and what I think the overall plan here is you want to get techs out early, at least in this case, because they're a defensive build unit, and you can't really have them chase down. You require your opponent to push into them, so you need to get them to the front line. You need to get them there as soon as possible. So this is his system. He's going to try to get, if the Flurry tries to harass early, he's going to try to counter get him in a trap with mech. Ooh, long-winded. And he also makes an artillery, and right away, I'm not sure what the artillery was for, honestly. But he obviously has a plan. It is on the strong side, which I'm like, okay, that makes sense. If I saw it on the weak side, I'd be really confused, because I don't see that work out too often. He's already boosting infantry, getting the mech out there. He shows this front, which I guess it kind of makes sense, because normally the first vehicle is often produced on the strong side, so here's a good chance for harassment over here. I feel like a lot of players may battle over this city. I don't know if that's necessarily worth it, because it's just so... There's more defensive terrain for player 1 on this side. But we shall see. Moving his recon to the center. Okay. Tank to the center. He's spacing out. He's not sure where the threats are going to come. My thought is either Clefairy's going to want to make threats or be prepared to make threats and try to do both at the same time. At least to me, I think Rip is a little more obvious in what his decision is. So, a bunch more mechs ready to go on the front line. He doesn't seem to have a vision unit yet. Well, usually I see a lot of good maintaining numbers of recons on Rip, but okay. Probably build order he needs to be concerned with. It's probably money's pretty tight, probably, in what his calculation is. So he moves, possibly risking this just to get vision on what's in the center. Okay, cool. Not sure why he moves his tank there. I think he could have moved it to the side. He could have moved it elsewhere, maybe. Like, I don't know, maybe here is my thought process, but Clefairy knows what he's doing. He takes into consideration the squares he's on, so... Do you see Clefairy trying to go after this, and you see that Rip down here is, gonna go for this one. And he doesn't really have backup on here. I mean, Clefairy even has an artillery ready to defend this guy. We're gonna see how well that works out for him. I mean, he's gonna get it for sure, but the thing is, like, it is a risky play. It's riskier because he can't know what's out here in the yonder. I mean, that's probably why I moved on the mountain. You could see any infantry because there's probably not vehicles out here. He's already dropping off a mech. He took a nice hit on this. Delaying the capture. So on this, my understanding of this is that he wants to slow down the income of Clefairy, right? Because the more income on a match, more vehicles, which benefit Jess. Lower income benefits Sami. So, if Sami can keep the money low, then that will overall benefit her in the long run. Because less money means more infantry. More money means more tanks. So he moves away, but keeps eye on this city just in case. Cool, cool. Notice how he's not just spreading right away, just spread his units too thin. A lot of people I notice who suck at Sami, myself included, I've done this many a times, especially when starting out. There's this like innate habit that you want to spread out and be greedy and collect all the cities as fast as you can to right away get that income lead. You can't, right? Because if you're spread out really thin, it's easier to pick off your units, especially with vehicles, which your opponent's more likely to have more vehicles. You are probably going to be supplementing some of those vehicles with mechs. I think it's much safer to set up first, and we'll set up over here and then go, because right now he's... I just think it's just safer. Nice little booster back to the city. Clears this guy. And this right here, he's threatening 2 of these, right? So right away, looking at his forces, he either has to sacrifice this guy and use these 2 to try to delay. I don't think it would knock this guy off the city. But he could either go after that and then have not enough resources to stop this guy, or go for this guy, stop this city, not have enough to stop this guy. So what you're probably thinking right now is, well, he has tanks. He could just use the tanks to deny that. Sure, but Rip has mechs right here. He has a mech here, and he's gonna probably pop one guy right here, and then he could just swap and take a shot at your tank. That's a classic trap. Moves up, positions the tank. Got a nice little death ball going on here. And so he's kind of, he has to choose between one or the other, because if he uses any vehicles, those vehicles will pay dearly. So he knows he's gonna have to choose, and then Rip is guaranteed to get the other. And a battlecopter, because, you know, Sami still wants battlecopters. And I think, in general, Sami wants wants raw unit numbers, raw unit count. And in my mind, that might be because if you've seen my my short on value hits, right? Mechs are really good at getting value hits, so if they hit a tank, or they hit really any vehicle, they automatically do more damage than the mech is worth. So you do get a good trade. However, mechs are kind of squishy. They're not really durable like a tank. So it's a high likelihood that on the next turn your opponent could just wipe out that singular mech. So you could, 1, lose numbers that way. 2, victory march. If you just like throw out all your infantry to capture your opponent's cities, you're kind of spreading out your units. They're probably going to be really easy to pick off. So if you do something like that, that's also likely to reduce your unit count. So Sami is going to want to maintain a decent unit count and maintain her infantry for at least until she gets her super, or at least power, depending on the situation. That's my thought on the matter. So yeah, he sends two of these guys to disrupt this one, and I think that's the correct call, because this one is closer to, one, closer to all his death ball. Two, it's kind of in his domain, his dojo. So he's more likely to get this over the long run. This is the one you were supposed to get over the long run. This is probably going to be an easier one to get and or deny. Or continue to deny, sorry. So that move right there. It's already, this guy's doesn't have another job left, so he probably gonna try to threaten that city. I mean, it's kind of restricted, so yeah, I could see you trying to contest that city. Don't know how well that's gonna play out, but and anti-air. So he knows that Rip is gonna want battlecopters if he can get a free shot on a transport. Great. One of the nice things is Jess has an anti-air, strong anti-air, so she can reasonably deal enough damage, or I think with her power she can one-shot mechs on cities, which is going to be great for wall breaking. So you kind of want to get the full value of trading for a battlecopter, but being able to wall break into this thing, that's also very powerful, and that it could make that a whole difference in the battle. So Jess definitely wants to use anti-air regardless, even if she decides this guy right here is gonna fight this guy. And more vision, because vision is great. I kind of like this. If you decide that you really need vision, so the 2 recon build on a lot of maps also allow you to make an infantry and a battlecopter. So, and you actually don't need to, hold on, let's just go back for the build. Yeah, that's 18,000. Almost I don't think there's no, I think most maps give you that level of income. So that's a great way to spend your money. So he's got his recon. So I think this recon is mostly to get vision of his opponent, see where his opponent is, know how he can position himself around his opponent. This guy's probably going to beat... I'm going to say this guy's sacked. It's high likelihood that he's going to be destroyed next turn. You see 3 tanks. Usually at the higher end, you see that the opponent goes for the recon because of how important high-end players consider vision, right? Because vision is how you are able to perfectly position your units. You need that info. Still making mechs, still sending them in here. Boom. Again, he's not capturing, he's just clearing the infantry. Getting rid of his infantry, which is good because if you get rid of your opponent's infantry, then after the victory march, it's going to take much longer for them to get infantry to that portion of the board to recapture. So that's even more time you get to accumulate that wealth after your victory march. More mechs. So many mechs. So I like up here, he said, I'm not gonna just throw away my infantry because there's no way that I could delay my opponent from getting on this city the next turn. There's no way. So he just runs off, tries to salvage this guy. Okay, great. and an artillery down here. We'll see how well it goes. I mean, he already has defensive units, but again, an artillery is another good defensive unit. So he kind of, I mean, I guess he kind of anticipated a sack here. For the most part, he's looking for his opponent. What is his opponent's answer to this? And apparently, there's a tank that's gonna take this guy out. Threatening this guy? Okay, great. Capturing this. I don't... Oh, and then he stops him. So this guy can't even disrupt a single turn of that cap. Preparing this guy as well. Covering those cities. Keeping his anti-air poised, ready to strike. He doesn't want to bring him to in, because anti-air are often targeted. Because they're a bit more squishy than tanks, and then if you take it out, you know you can harass with your battlecopter. You see that? He's actively going on the pipe seam. Now, just looking at this map, I think I'm not alone in quickly disregarding this pipe seam. At the very least, I'm looking at it from the perspective of player one in this instance. What would be the point of this? There's no good point to go around to save you some much needed space. If anything, you could put an artillery down here and help fight off anyone trying to come in, I guess, but I think the thought is it gives him a little bit more to hold down to and move around, maybe? I don't know. But then he follows up with a tank. I don't know, I just don't understand it, but whatever. I don't need to understand everything all at once. Look at this death ball. Yeah, that's something you just don't want to push into, because you will get wrecked. I mean, it's got to be hard to deal with this. Oh, this guy got some use. Great. He's still not going to stop this swap. So it's going to go from 21k to 21k. Yeah, it's okay. Pushing a force here. Protecting this guy in case there is a push in. Interesting. Back there. Okay, so he's kind of moving down here. He is front shifting down here. I think it's because his opponent doesn't have vision down there, and sure, yeah, whatever. I mean, he doesn't need to stay in the middle because there's not a lot of terrain in the middle to really be good defensively. There's no reason he should have to stay there. But now he can move his army and pose threats elsewhere. He doesn't need to keep making the same threat, because otherwise it's just going to be... If you just keep making the same threats, it's basically two armies that just go at each other. Yeah, I got kicked out of art school. Oh, do you see that? A third battlecopter. Oh shit, no, I mean a third transport copter. So, it's kind of rare to see, well, it's not as rare as it used to be, but rare to see a two transport, like, build. But no, he's going for 3 transport build. He still wants more units. He wants more foot soldiers, probably more mechs. And usually when I see like people build another transport, it's because this guy is about to get written off. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's the case, and like, look at this. He is perfectly supplementing his force with mechs. Right? It actually seems to be more of a bunch of mechs sprinkled in with some tanks. But he's making great great use of those. Okay, use the artillery to blow up that guy. Removing the rest of the threats, capturing it. And he's still poking a hole at this. Your tank's kind of tucked away in here. I mean, it's gonna be... It wouldn't be too difficult for him to close you off over here. Poses a tank there. Has an anti-air poised, ready to strike. He gets a little vision, but you need a lot of vision of a death ball. Is that for vision? That tank move? Oh, okay. Not fully understanding it. That one is for vision. Boom. Drop the unit. There we go. He has vision of it. Boom. Nice. Because that's the scariest thing. That's the scariest defensive unit there. Once you get rid of this, because this is going to do damage without counterattacking. So that was probably the scariest unit there. So yeah, deal with it. Good targeting. Good targeting. I guess take a chip out of his vision. I think he wants to get rid of this vision if he could. Well, I guess we'll see. Repositioning, making sure that if you decide to attack into anything, you can get hit. Another mech being built. So he's completely front shift, switched down here, shifted, whatever you want to call it. This guy's ready to go. Makes a mech prepared. This guy gets a boost. If he wants, the mech is now poised to go in there next turn if needed. I don't know if it will be needed. Again, using these infantry perfectly to protect the mechs. So if anything attacks these infantry, the mech is going to come in. So he's moving some vision over here to get his vision. He sees there's a lot of units over here. He's like, uh-oh. Backs up. Gets that. Pulls back. Has his little defensive unit of his own. He has him up here. He doesn't have quite a death ball, so he's quite fortunate that Rip's mech army doesn't have a lot of movement, because otherwise you just choose one section, engulf them, and they're easy to pick off, and then... Because it's hard to push into a death ball, like a lot more units over here. I think this is just a threat. I don't think he's actually trying to get this. Ooh, a medium tank. So, I'm of the mindset, and you can disagree with me on this, but Jess might actually prefer get more effective use out of medium tanks per dollar than Neo tanks. Why? Because of that extra 10%. They're more viable for certain things. I'll show you an instance later on in this match. But pretty much per dollar, they're a little bit more effective. You can make them more frequently than Neo tanks. You can, like, let's say you have 24k in the bank. On a 3-base map, you're gonna get Neo tank, infantry, infantry. So if you make a medium tank instead, you can get an additional tank out of that and an infantry. So you can get more tanks, which, one, Jess wants more tanks. Two, if Jess is willing to use her power, and even more so her super, before she sends her medium tank into battle, it can effectively be a Neo tank. And in fact, it could probably be one of the best counter. It's the most cost-effective counter to a Neo tank. Especially because you get that +2 movement. You get the movement to go in, hit hard, then you're good. Yeah. So there's that, and to some extent it also works with any plus 10% CO. Anyone who gets a buff to who could potentially get an attack buff to medium tanks. So it gets rid of that anti-air, okay. Continues boosting into the forest. Great. Because he's able to, using his tactics, he's able to deal damage, remove units from his opponent's field, and then he has his units positioned in a way that if his opponent tries to push in and attack, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to retaliate. This guy's running low on fuel, but he's still being super duper useful. Helicopter, tank there, tank there. Positioning, clear off his... So now that he cleared this off, if he wants vision off this mountain again, he pretty much, and it's probably going to be a unit from this forest, going to have to send this guy up there, right? He's going to have to utilize his movement for that, rather than use him possibly for something else on the map. So. Okay. I mean, he's gonna... the issue is over here, he doesn't have any wall breaking potential. Because he can't get to two sides of a unit. So you gotta kind of anticipate that there's gonna be some retaliation. Pulls back. Starts producing the medium tank. So the next turn, this city is on the 2-turn reinforcement for the medium tank, so that should be super duper useful. Boom gets rid of the... Well, it's another two-purpose move. One, you're getting rid of the artillery, which is a potentially very damaging move, especially on like heavy-duty units. But you also get great vision. He gets vision of all these units. He can see how big of a force Clefairy has over there. Again, over here, he's getting rid of the vision. Again, allowing him to get vision over here while doing this. Now that's just a bad roll. Maybe he'll use an infantry to pop that off. Clears off that. But there's going to be an issue in a second. And puts him back up there. Boom. Shooting down the tank. Still a great trade. Great trade. Okay, there you go. He has to use that to finish it off, but oh well. He still gets an infantry on here. Great. It's not going to be easily interrupt. Yeah, it can be interrupt. It just depends how many resources Clefairy wants to dedicate to that cause. And again, he has a mech right here in case he needs to, you know, in case he tries to stop you. Okay, so let's look at Fairy's turn. Boom on that mech. Clears off the infantry. Sacrifices himself for chip damage to securely blow that guy off. Why is that important? Boom. That's one of the benefits of just tanks. Well, any 10% buff on a medium tank, that they can guarantee a one-hit KO on tanks on roads, on any 0 defense star tile. So, and that was without a power. So again, it's kind of in certain situations, even without the power, it's kind of acting like a Neo tank. It's just the power gives it a little bit more punch to be more, to act more like a Neo tank. One of the thought processes is that with the Neo tank, anyways, if you're probably gonna try to utilize it the same turn as your power for maximum effect, maximum movement, anyways. So this actually seems like a pretty decent move. Cost-effective move. Notice how Rip has not yet backed up. You rather have just pure more units to move around and do what you need to do. A second tank. Ooh, second medium tank. And see, he's also able to produce things the same turn. You wouldn't be able to do that with a Neo tank. Well, in this case, he would have been because he was saving up a little bit. Actually, no, he wouldn't have been able. Yeah, he wouldn't have been able to make this guy that same turn. So that's the benefit of medium tanks. It's kind of like mechs. Like, tanks are better than mechs in most regards, but they're more cost effective. So if you utilize them well, then that's where the savings comes in. And Jess makes good. It's kind of like Jess gets a buff to her medium tanks, similar to how Sami gets a buff to her mechs, to make that exchange a little more viable. Victory March. Let's see it. Boom. 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 Not dead, but still good. Boom. See how he's going? Notice how he's going scorched earth on the infantry, right? He's doing that thing I brought up earlier. Going scorched earth in the infantry. So his opponent doesn't have many infantry to regain cities later on. So that gives you a little bit more time with that income. Okay, so 24k to 18k. That's a pretty decent. That's 6,000 difference. If Rip wanted to, he could make a Neo tank every single turn. Probably not, because in general you'd want more smaller tanks available to you than bigger tanks, unless you have a need for that. If you have a set goal for that tech up, you'd rather have the fewer, the more frequent smaller units, just because it's a little bit more versatile. You can get more hits. So he does make the Neo, and now Lower Clefairy. It starts that game where Rip can easily tech up. Clefairy has to choose. Now with 18, they would basically be able to choose a medium tank and infantry, and 2 infantry, if they were to make the largest thing they can build every single turn. You'd have to save up for a Neo tank. But if he can get enough medium tanks, he could deal with this, but he has to make sure he gets the first hit, which also means he needs a bunch of other units, which with 18 it's kind of difficult now. He has these, he kind of needs to savor these and build a bunch of tanks, in my opinion. As Jess, that's what I would probably do. Make as many vehicles as I can. And this is because Jess's power benefits tanks. She wants as many tanks as she can get. Boom, boom. Okay, so pulling back now. He was able to get his march. He's pulling back and retreating. He's pretty much won over this area down here, pretty much entirely. He's going to be able to capture this city. If he keeps his forces down, he could probably capture these if he wants and flip those. That's even more. I think at that point he'd probably win. I don't know what how much he needs to win off the top of my head, but it's probably getting there. So finally he pops his super. He's had it for a while now, and in fact, he's had it since before Rip had his power. It's just for some reason he wasn't popping it. He doesn't feel comfortable doing that. He was in a good position. It was harmful to him, right? In terms of the power game, it was not good for him. Ooh, so here's what I don't like, right? Tank there, boom. You see the Neo tank, and you still move in the medium tank. I can't condone that. That just seems wasteful to me. I mean, I'll give you that you didn't see this guy, but the Neo tank, one shot on that, my man. Boom, you're fighting off. And the thing is, if you're not clearing all those mechs, it's gonna come to bite you. I mean, this medium tank is probably pretty safe. However, 1, 2, because you need, like, I think it's Sami needs 5 mechs to take one down, which you're not going to be able to get in one turn. It's not feasible. Boom. He's still fighting forward. No, wait, that's Rip. Yeah, so Rip's just kind of takes out a tank, neutralizes this pretty well, removes the air support. So this is going to... So the infantry are just really going to be able to clean up all his infantry, and the mechs are actually going to do some real damage. But once all his infantry are gone, it's kind of GG at this point, because he's already ahead. You don't have infantry. It's just going to continue to snowball at this point. Boom. Clear off that infantry. He doesn't even bother using these guys to clear off. He just balls up again. Yeah. Gonna fast forward because it's kind of spoken for. You know what's going down. Continues just harassing. He has no answer to any of the threats on the map.
And there goes the battle!
I don't blame him. That was... Oof. Let's look at the stats real quick. It's not too far difference from the kill deaths. The build number is pretty much what's different, and it comes down to probably that extra 10. It's mostly the mechs. But that right there, he built some extra those. He built those. Yeah. I feel like Clefairy skipped base skipped at one point. Well, I felt like that was very beneficial to being able to see how Sami wants to play. And hopefully you understand what Sami wants to do and try to avoid that. If you're against Sami, try to avoid allowing the death ball setup, because again, I don't see a good... It's not really a good point in which Clefairy could really push in. There was no real good section. Yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and thanks for watching.